Upon arriving in the Seteos, the group was greeted by Nigel, who met them with his usual dependable presence. He welcomed Yuri with open arms, showing no hesitation in accepting the new companion. The party was escorted to Messiona aboard a yachar, a journey during which Yuri remained in a deep, unbroken slumber, unaware of the world shifting around her. The Messiona provided for them this time was even more spacious and opulent than their previous accommodations. Situated in a prime location, it stood significantly closer to the heart of the city, Seteos, signaling the growing importance of their mission. The Messionas stood adjacent to one another at regular intervals, their grand scale creating the distinct atmosphere of an exclusive residential district. "Our success in securing the aqua must have earned us this preferential treatment," Claire remarked, her eyes scanning the opulent interior. Nigel, carrying the sleeping Yuri in his arms, laid her gently upon a bed. He informed the group that he would return once their energy adjustment was complete, just as he had done before, and then took his leave. Already waiting for them within the Messiona were their Pailas. With their newly distributed Aurumulus and Testic in hand, Chris and Sana retired to their respective private quarters. Before changing into his Pula, Chris headed to the Rapumo with Bibi to wash away the grime of the surface world in the bubbling hot spring. The Rapumo possessed a unique property: the moment one stepped out, the water particles were repelled, drying the body instantly. This meant there was no need for towels, a particular relief when dealing with the furry Bibi, who was dry in an instant without the usual hassle. Once finished, Chris fastened the collar-shaped Aurumulus around Bib's neck and dressed him in his custom Pula. "Now this is more like it," Bibi exclaimed through their mental link, frolicking through the air with newfound joy. When Chris and Bibi returned to the top-floor living room, Erandora handed Chris the dagger inset with the Rubulapis, the stone of guidance. Chris secured it at his waist alongside his Testic. He then walked over to where Claire and Ramal were seated in the center of the room, and took a seat on one of the kutayas, luxurious sofas that drifted effortlessly in mid-air. Sana had not yet returned from her room.
"By the way,"
Chris asked Claire, who sat opposite him,
"is it really okay to leave Yuri alone in her room? If she wakes up in a place she doesn't recognize, won't she panic?"
"I think she'll be fine," Claire replied calmly. "I've already activated and fitted her with an Aurumulus. As soon as she wakes, she'll be able to communicate through it." Upon hearing this, Chris checked the person status display on his own Aurumulus. Sure enough, Yuri's icon appeared right next to Bib's. When he opened the details, a live feed of Yuri's sleeping face was shown. Chris minimized the display as much as possible, tucking it into the corner of his field of vision. This way, he would immediately notice when she woke up, and Yuri, in turn, would be able to see Chris's face. As Chris was adjusting the settings on his Aurumulus, Sana emerged from her quarters. Having changed into her Pula, it was evident she had also made use of the Rapumo. A sweet, floral scent of shampoo drifted faintly from her damp hair. As she took a seat beside him, Chris instructed her to keep Yuri's status displayed on her own Aurumulus for monitoring. Moments later, Erandora joined them, settling into a single-seated kutila positioned between Chris and Claire. After finishing the adjustments to her Aurumulus, Sana turned her attention to Erandora. "By the way," she began,
"there's something I've been wanting to ask about guardian dragons." "Yes, what is it?"
Erandora replied, tilting her head with a gentle smile.
"How did the contract between Chris and you come to be in the first place?" "Because it had already been decided,"
Erandora answered simply.
"Decided? Do you mean it was destiny? If you wish to call it destiny, then perhaps it was."
Erandora mused.
"When Chris's soul chose to reincarnate upon the earth, it was determined that I would be the one to support him. We both agreed to those terms before the contract was sealed. Does that mean you will always be with Chris as his supporter, from now on and forever?
Alondra shifted her gaze toward Chris for a moment. Then, looking back at Sana, she shook her head.
Should the time come when Chris no longer requires my aid, I will likely move on to support someone else.
Hearing those words, a wave of indescribable loneliness washed over Chris. It was a hollow ache in the pit of his stomach, a sense of loss so profound it reminded him of the day the original BB had passed away. In reality, less than a year had passed since Chris first learned of Alondra's existence. Yet, he felt as though he had known her warmth deep within his heart since time immemorial. The sudden realization that a parting would eventually come struck him with a wave of acute anxiety. Noticing the shadow that fell over him, Alondra spoke softly. "Do not worry," she said, her voice a soothing balm to his troubled heart.
By that time, the emotion of loneliness will have faded from within you entirely. You will have become an existence that perceives only a profound sense of oneness, a realization that all is love. There will be no cause for worry.
She smiled warmly at Chris before adding,
To put it another way, as long as you are still capable of feeling loneliness, I shall remain by your side.
With those words, she turned her gaze back toward Sana.
But not everyone enters into a contract with a dragon at the moment their soul is born, right?
Sana asked.
No, of course not.
Alondra replied with a nod.
But Chris has you, Claire has Ramal, and even Yuri has a guardian dragon, don't they?
Understanding the unspoken heart of Sana's question, Alondra gave her a reassuring smile.
Every soul has a being that supports them,
she explained.
Even if it isn't a dragon like us, it might be another type of guardian beast, or perhaps a guardian angel. For each soul, there is a being best suited to provide the necessary support. You could say it is a matter of compatibility. It is true that no dragon follows you,
Alondra said.
However, there is undoubtedly a being who watches over you, and they will surely reveal themselves when the time is right.
Hearing this, a look of relief washed over Sana, and her face brightened into a smile.
I wonder what kind of being is protecting me,
she mused, her voice tinged with excitement.
Yeah, I wonder.
Chris joined in.
I mean, besides dragons, what other kinds of guardians are out there?
Oh, there are all sorts. Claire chimed in with a grin. There are Pegasi, unicorns, phoenixes, then there are Fenrirs, chimeras, sphinxes and, let's see. Claire went on, counting the types of guardian beings on her fingers. But just as she was racking her brain for more, Ramal spoke up. Hey. What is it? Claire glared at him, clearly annoyed that her concentration had been broken.
It looks like she's awake,
Ramal murmured. Wait. Oh, you're right, Claire said, her gaze shifting instantly. On the screen of the Aurumulus, Yuri had sat up in bed. She was looking around her unfamiliar surroundings with wide, anxious eyes, her confusion evident as she tried to make sense of where she was.
Yuri.
Chris focused the Aurumulus display on her and waved his hand.
Wait, Chris, what is this?
Yuri stammered, her voice trembling as she struggled to grasp her surroundings.
We're coming to you right now, just stay there and wait for us.
Oh what? Okay, I understand.
Yuri replied, giving a bewildered but obedient nod.